has Big Joel made a response? Is this a back and forth, or is it literally just Adam something critiqued Big Joel or something? You know, he did. Okay, okay. All right, I'll take a little look. Have I doomed boys to Andrew Tate, a response to Adam something? And we're making the face over here. That's good.
Hey everybody. So I woke up this morning to a message from my friend Jack Saint, who said to me, "You got called out for failing to help young men." That was the message.
Yeah, it was
to a video from the very large YouTube channel Adam Something, where he talks about me and talks about how people like me, presumably not just me. I haven't seen the video yet. People like me.
Wait, are you going to see the video? Otherwise, this isn't. It says it's a response. Wait, hold on. Are you in the same? Is it the same shot the whole time? He watches. Okay, he does watch. Okay, I was like, is the whole video he hasn't watched it? Because if that's the case, then how is this a response? Okay.
Video.
Types I used to listen to. Girl.
So let's get into it. Let's get into Adam Something's video. Andrew Tate is the left's fault. Here's why.
Around the year 2016, I was a disaffected gamer bro. I considered myself to be a classical liberal. I hated those cringe feminists.
Okay, so he starts off the video explaining that he used to be a bit of a chud. He used to laugh at feminists and stuff, but then he became dark woke.
Fast forward to 2025, and most of those classical liberal types I used to listen to have become white nationalists. I, on the other hand, have chosen a different path and became dark woke.
Which means that he is... I guess he's normal. I guess dark woke is normal. He likes... One second, let me see what dark woke means.
I'm progressive. I am pro-LGBT. I am pro-feminism.
It's getting to be a little more normal, I think.
And I laugh at Big Red, I laugh at Triglipuff, and I laugh at Humongous.
Okay, so dark woke then means that he's a feminist and stuff, but he still gets mad at like feminists who he thinks are stupid or something. Okay, we're skipping forward here to him talking about the subject of this video.
I think there might be a slight rhetorical disconnect here between the audience that Adam Something is attempting to speak to and the tone with which Big Joel is reading this. And it's not necessarily either of their faults. It's just, Big Joel is such a weasel. Wait, what the? I like Big Joel. What do you mean? He's good. What do you? I'm sorry. You can't. We're friends to all. I was gonna say all men. Like I guess women are fine too. We don't need to fight. We're just chilling. Big Joel does not like you. I think we're fine actually. He came into chat like a couple of months ago and we talked for a bit about. He came into chat while I was playing Silk Song. I think.
Yeah, which is
he did my bad. What the? You just assumed he didn't like me? Why? Because he's woke? What the? Big Joel doesn't like you. Oh, I guess he does. Well, I have enough enemies. Don't add them to my plate.
Advice, and that seems to be where I jump into the picture.
I was doing something which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, but I wanted consistent results. I didn't just want to sleepwalk through my dating life and hope to stumble upon someone good.
He was doing okay dating, he was doing fine, he was finding girls that liked him or whatever, but he wanted to quantify it in some way. I'm not really sure. Like he wanted to break through the system, understand the matrix. He wanted to figure out the ins and outs of dating. And that's where the problems sort of begin, I suppose.
Both the left and the right offer dating advice, and so I first asked around in lefty circles, hey, how do I score a good girlfriend? Actually, the term scored is deeply problematic because it presupposes that the woman is just an object. Okay, fine, forget I said anything. Meanwhile, on the right, dating advice was essentially variations on Andrew Tate type boomer conservative BS.
Okay, so the point that he's getting at here is that the left gives bad dating advice because all they do is scold men, which I don't know. Do I scold men on wanting girlfriends? I didn't know that I did that. If I did that, then I am sorry. And then he also says that the right...
Yeah, that was pretty f***ed up, you, man. I feel like things have gotten so much better in this front since I first started doing my channel. I'm taking full credit for it. Like 5-6 years ago, I feel like I think it's the difference between woke 1 and woke 2, because woke 1 was very self-serious and very performatively misinterest, basically. It was right. Like I'm not in a way that was like socially harmful or whatever. It's not as though men were, you know, having their employment numbers tanked by feminists or anything like that, but you know, it was a little bit obnoxious. And I think now that we've all seen what real reactionary behavior looks like, we can coalesce around its opposition a bit, right? Like it's much easier to be progressive and to identify progressivism in an era where the government is run by hyperchuds. It's like, okay, I get what's progressive, not that, basically, you know? kind of like how the right was able to coalesce around hating blue-haired feminists. Once you have a clear understanding of what it is you don't like, it's easier to pull people around, even if there are tons of internal disagreements. Getting the dating advice stuff, I think, is getting a little. Look, I might be totally naive. Maybe I'm like off my game. Maybe I'm not up on the zeitgeist anymore. But I feel like nowadays, the idea that like, oh, for young people, dating's super hard, you're trying as best as you can, whatever. I feel like people take that more seriously. Or maybe they're not engaging in that obnoxious millennialism where they treat it like it's a man versus woman thing, and rather more of a like men and women, and non-binary people or whatever, against society, which I think is a little bit more fair. Because it's literally not a man versus woman thing. If anything, in a lot of cases, it's like a man versus man with women being collateral damaged kind of thing. Like woke men and anti-woke men battling over the perception and treatment of the women who don't have the social capital to really like litigate the discussion, you know?
Is bad dating advice because it's all macho, stupid, empty, vapid bullshit, which I do agree with. To whatever extent the right gives dating advice that's like right coded or whatever, usually it's pretty unhelpful, and it's just saying like be a dude, be a man, get ladies, right? That's all they say for the most part.
Okay, to be fair, there was more to the left than people just, woke scolding you about the problematic words that you're using. Some people did give you genuine dating advice. Too bad it was all terrible.
Oh, okay. So he's not saying that I just scolded men that wanted girlfriends. He's not saying that. Rather, he's saying that I did give dating advice to young men, but that it was bad advice. I give shitty, bad advice. So, and this is really the beginning of my interaction with the video. I give bad dating advice. So let's see it.
I don't really think that self-help online advice is all that helpful to people because I think you already know all the advice that anybody on the internet could possibly tell you. Young men, do things that are good, in your opinion. Do things that you think are good. I don't imagine that I have a better answer for what those things are than you do. You know yourself, but, of course, you know what those things are.
So wait, can I just say something? That's not me giving men advice, right?
It's probably like a little uninspired maybe, or unhelpful, but I don't really think it's like representative of the problem that the left was having at the time, That's very much not an example of me giving young men bad advice. That's me giving men the opinion that I don't think that I have advice to give them. That's not advice. And I want to defend my kind of anti-advice position here because I understand my take has always been, in my opinion, right, that trying to give dating advice would be a lot like, I mean, you have to give people life advice, not dating advice, because it's like trying to teach people how to find love. You literally can't. You can't go out looking to fall in love. You have to go out to look and find like novel social experiences, to meet people and spend time with them. And if you fall in love in that process, then that's great, But you can't go into every interaction being like, is this the one that's going to develop into a romantic relationship? Because that fucks. That just I mean, it might work sometimes just off of like, just coincidence or sheer chance, but I really don't think that's a good method, So most of the dating advice that I have, and I've said this 1,000 times on stream, isn't even like, here's how you date. It's here's how you talk to people. Here's how you go outside. Here's how you feel a little bit more confident. Here's how you, whatever else, right? And I think that once you get good at that stuff, the dating is really just a subset of being good at making and having friends. It's a product of broader social behavior. And being real here, okay, dating somebody and being close friends to somebody are very similar in almost all but a few ways, in my opinion, right? Now, there are differences, like you're making out with the people you date or whatever, and then there's the whole like broader life plan stuff. But in the moment-to-moment engagement, you're not thinking, it's not about, date number one. It's not about, can you give the hip drive? Do you have that long dick style down? It's just about eye contact, understanding what people are interested in talking about, getting the implicit signal, stuff like that. And that's just life advice, And the lens from which you view these interactions. Yeah, well, you don't want to take them too seriously. Were you ever going to cover that Why You're the Least Valuable Friend video? Oh, that'd be fun to do. Yeah, for sure. manosphere dating coaches are all dateless losers who have made that fact everyone's problem. Well, the big lie from the right is that women are a different species. So learning how to date them is a totally different skill to like broadly socializing or making friends. And you'll find to pretty much to a man, these people are like miserable, you know? They are not happy in their friendships or relationships. So I just don't think, I mean, if that's how you want to treat it, I'm not going to argue with you or whatever. That's your life. I'm not going to waste time. But I don't think that shit makes people happy. I think even the chuddiest of the chuds secretly fantasize about an equal relationship with a woman. And this is one of the reasons why the femboy thing is often kind of like right-coded. I think it's because there are a lot of misogynistic young guys who really like the idea of being in an equal relationship with a woman, but they can't imagine a woman being in an equal relationship with them, so they imagine a feminine guy, thereby like magically avoiding the sort of psychological and spiritual caveat of womanhood, but preserving other aesthetic tendencies. I think that there is that is an element of it. I'm not saying all the femboys are far right or whatever. I'm just saying, at least 80%. This has to be Vaush's weirdest take. Goddamn, dude, I'm not novel for pointing out there's an association between online 4chan far right people and femboys. That's not. I'm not making that up. Like, that's an established thing. I just think it's interesting the reason why,
Probably the most tendentious part of what I'm saying, and probably the thing that he's responding to. So the problem with advice on the internet, particularly very broad advice, like how to find a girl that you like, the problem with that is that most things in this world that are worth doing are a lot easier to say than they are to do. Most of us, I think, are aware of the fact that if we want, great dating options, that we should try to be as sexy as possible, which means, maybe doing some lifting or losing some weight. I don't know. Most people know that if you want to meet people, the better option is to put yourself out there over not putting yourself out there. Most people know that putting your own life in order and doing things that are good for your body and your soul and your passion and your love, these are the things you...
I don't know what Joel is saying. I broadly agree with what Big Joel is saying. I think the issue is that usually people who are having so much trouble with something as innate to the human experience as dating or making new friends, people who are looking online for advice on that are lacking the confidence to arrive at these conclusions themselves. That's why when I talk about stuff like this, I tend to do so pretty authoritatively. It's not because I think I'm right all the time or because I think that my way of thinking about things is always the best, but for people who could benefit from that advice, I think they need that authoritative delivery, because the most correct way to say anything is always to say maybe, comma, possibly, comma, the evidence isn't all in, right? Hedging your bets is always the most accurate way of approaching an issue, especially something as nebulous and personal as like how to best socialize. But I know there's a lot of people who are look, you would be better off committedly following advice that is like 70% good for you than waiting to find the advice that's 100% good for you. You are better off like charging ahead with a good plan than waiting for a perfect one. So that's why I try to speak like confidently on it. But different people are different, If I ever give a bit of advice like, go outside and try to hold eye contact with people or whatever, make conversation with the grocer, the cashier. As maybe for some people this just doesn't work, but I think for most people it would.
To pursue in life. The thing is, all of those ideas are really easy to say, and the actual doing of them is the hard part. The day in, day out commitment to bettering yourself as a person, putting yourself out there, approaching the girls you want to date, shooting your shot. These are ideas that are obviously advisable, and I guess I'm giving you the advice to do them, but at the end of the day, after I've said that advice, after I've said the advice, go out and do these things that are good for you, work out, groom yourself, put yourself out there, then my role as an advice giver is kind of inherently done. And what's left is you reckoning with yourself. And that's something that people on the internet, people giving dating advice, they just can't really offer you that well. I don't know you. Adam, something doesn't...
I think there's more to talk about than this. Though it's cool if he's just not, if he doesn't want to like engage with it at that level, But I do think there's always something to talk about. It's There's a surprising amount. It's the same with everything in life, right? You know, you can cut the food in your kitchen with a basic ass $5 knife and be fine for your whole life, probably. And then there are people who know a million things about knives and buy like $400 knives. There's an infinite amount of depth to any subject. It's just a matter of how much you want to talk about it.
Know you. Okay, we can't speak to the particular needs that you have. We can't speak to the particular issues that you have, finding the things that you need in the world, because that stuff is particular to you. This is the problem with something like online dating advice. A lot of it is fine. A lot of it says stuff that's obvious to you, and I'm sure it can be helpful if you haven't heard it before. But at the end of the day, the real meat and potatoes of living, it belongs only to you. It can only belong to you. And most
your lives belong to me, chat. Don't forget. Give me your money.
People on the internet who make money off of giving you advice aren't actually helping you that much to achieve the goals you want to achieve, because they don't know.
Big Joel, my dude, that's not what the boys are looking for. Vaush, I know this sounds mean, but I genuinely believe there's a huge amount of leftists, including the content creators, who think engaging with men and patiently educating men is beneath him. I don't think that he thinks it's beneath him. I just don't think that Big Joel has much interest in giving life advice in that way. In fairness, the obsession with catering to the life interest needs of anxious, insecure young men is a very specific and kind of weird thing that I personally am okay with delving into, in large part because it's part of the culture war bullshit that I'm familiar with. But like, it doesn't mean that, like, not every guy who does political content has to be like, all right, lads, now we're gonna tell you how to, I don't know, eat pussy the right way or whatever. It's not, it doesn't all have to, you don't have to engage with it to that extent. Yeah, I don't think Joel thinks it's beneath him or whatever. I just think he's basically saying, like, what the f do you want me to say? You tell a person to brush their teeth. What more is there to that? You want them to brush their teeth. If they don't brush their teeth after they know they should brush their teeth, the problem is with them not brushing their teeth, not with them not knowing that they need to brush their teeth. You do need to clean your room. Yeah, but Big Joel's framing it as this advice isn't really that crucial and the kid can just figure it out. Again, different circles, right? Like, in fairness, a lot of the advice that I feel like I have to give you guys sometimes does feel pretty fucking obvious to me. So, I mean, again, it's really just a matter of what you're... No hatred! I'm just saying, like, and I'm not saying I'm looking down on you guys, but I've done the clean your room bit quite a bit, and I know... listen, look, we're all occasionally incredibly dumb and baby, right? But it's a recurring trend in the advice, you know? It's not like we get into the elite social stuff on this stream either, you know? A lot of this stuff was like, go outside for 20 minutes and don't bring your phone. It's very basic stuff. But it's a lost art, you know? Everyone used to know how to do home ed or whatever. Now people have forgotten. It's just a... Soon we'll all be pod people.
Know you. And to be clear, you can disagree with my opinion on this. That's fine. It's totally fine. If you find people on the internet giving you really wonderful advice and you think it's useful to you, that's great. That's great for you. But my point is that the self-help economy broadly, the economy around telling men that we can tell you things that will make it so much easier for you to find loved ones, because the problem is a knowledge problem. They're selling you something. They're literally selling you something, because
I don't really agree with that. I mean, obviously a lot of them are, sure, but I think that, like, I don't think there's anything innately wrong with it, you know? I should say, and I mean, in fairness, I am selling you guys something in the sense that I have a channel where I add revenue and people donate and stuff. So, I mean, there's that, obviously. But I don't think there's anything innately wrong with it. It's kind of like exercise advice in a way. Like, you can get like your daily dose of inspo from somebody, you know? Like, here's the channel that I watch to remind myself on proper form for deadlifts and also to get myself energized. Look at that guy's rippling back muscles. Maybe that could be me one day, you know? And here's the channel that I look at to remind me cool, like, you know, social advice or whatever. Not to say that's most of what I talk about. For the most part, I call the president a pedophile. That's like 95% of my job lately. But you get it. You get, like, the principle.
Problem, for the most part, especially after a certain point, is not a knowledge problem. It's an action problem. It's a motivation problem. It's a wrestling with your soul problem.
You look really good.
That's my opinion. Anyway, he plays another clip of me now, so let's watch that.
This video is not my way of saying that all advice on the internet is bad and that the people who are giving it are all grifting you and that there's no place for it. I don't believe that. I just think it's an extremely small part of a network with things that are vastly, vastly more important than it. The amount of impact that some guy on the internet will have on your
It's not really about Big Joel specifically, but I will say that it was obviously a massive decentralized strategic failure for people on the left to not take more seriously the extent to which young men wanted this kind of advice, you know? Like just from a basic like ground level political organizing, you know, like not even, well, what do I want to do personally? Because if you personally don't want to do whatever, but like in a general sense, obviously this was a pretty big missing piece. I think it's gotten a lot better for sure. You know, I think it's gotten a lot less, you know, stark of a divide. Obviously, Andrew Tate's a nobody now. I don't really know who are the young guys watching now for dating advice. Fuentes, I have no idea. Fresh and Fit, I don't know where the Asmongold, I guess. I don't know where the money is now.
Life when they give you advice on how to get motivated or whatever is, I think, you know, fairly small in the grand scheme of things, and that's my point.
Wow. I'm sorry, I like Big Joel, I like his videos, but this type of stuff does not help anyone.
Unfortunately for all of us, I do agree with what I said in that video. Like, I can't take it back. Like as I said, I'm not against all advice. I'm not saying that everyone who gives any advice is stupid. I'm sure that a lot of value has been gotten from looking up on WikiHow, you know, how to...
Can we blame that an entire generation dropped the ball because the phones got to them? Look, the thing that's weird for me is that in many measurable ways, men are now underperforming relative to women. Like, men's participation in the workforce is dropping, women's is increasing. Men are going to school less, they're graduating less, they're getting worse grades. In a lot of, like, really measurable ways, men are doing worse. And to a large extent, you know, I think this can be blamed on, for one, this isn't women's fault. It's the fault of shifting social tendencies, material conditions. This is not a man versus woman thing, you know? But you have to ask, what is causing this? Because it's not men are getting more right-wing, because they're generally not. That's just not true. That's not the trend we're seeing, where like men are devolving into like cave people, chuds, low IQ chuds, and that's why they're doing worse in a bunch of ways. I think it's largely because it's actually, there are ways in which it's pretty difficult to be a guy these days. There's not a lot of aspirational motivation, right? There's not a lot to look forward to, I think, in the perception of a lot of young men, a lot of economic stress, shifting social standards, whatever. So I think for those reasons, right, there's kind of like a declining hope in the demographic. Certainly the case for men and women, but there's obviously a disproportionate effect here. That's worth looking at, you know?
Girl, or like, I don't know if a girl likes you or whatever the I'm sure that this has happened a lot. I'm not trying to take that away from anybody. But at the end of the day, yeah, if somebody is spending their time giving you advice and like coming up with like a corpus of advice to give you, and it's like long and it involves you giving them money in some capacity, yeah, it's probably not going to be that helpful, right? Because there's not that much really, really good advice that a person on the internet is going to give you. I also there's a lot of room for good advice out there. Like, in my experience at least, I think that good dating advice delivered from people on the left to guys is shockingly rare. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of people on the left are uncomfortable talking about, like, real talking about dating, basically, because you have to often talk in a simplified sense about general trends, tendencies, and behaviors with men and women, and sometimes those overlap with like sexist stereotypes, you know? It's like for instance, a big part of learning how to date as a guy who's even moderately well off, if you're straight, right, you're dating women, is to learn to identify gold diggers, like women who are just looking for a free meal. Is this all women? No. Is this most women? No. Is it a real thing? Of course it's a real thing. It's like a ton of women like that in New York. It's an expensive city to live in. They're just hopping between dates for the free meals. Listen, no hate, girl. Get your goddamn, get your 3 meals, you know? But it's something worth talking about, right? You don't have to use the term gold digger. You know, you don't need to say the word or words, but it's worth talking about. And sometimes I think people on the left get a little like skittish about it. Frankly, think it's a bit odd that he put up all those headlines of like all the men flocking to Andrew Tate over me saying that. Because at the end of the day, I don't think I can give you very meaningful dating advice. I don't think that there is such an online person who's going to give you sort of earth-shattering dating advice. And I don't think Andrew Tate does either. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that's what Andrew Tate is trying to do. You know, if you ever watch Andrew Tate streams, if you ever like see the things he says, even the things he says about finding a girl, they're not like valuable information that you can like put into practice and which will change your world.
Well, I don't think Adam Something is saying that Andrew Tate did a good job with it, you know. Andrew Tate offers something in lieu of dating advice, right? It's more about a broader narrative about how to live your life and how to interact with people, you know, which is I mean, obviously a lot more expansive than just dating advice on its own, which I guess is important, right? Because you don't want to just offer dating advice, right? Dating advice on its own is kind of a vacuum. Yeah, it's like a broader philosophy about the world. In his case, like a profoundly stupid one.
I fundamentally reject the hypothesis that the reason why Andrew Tate is popular is because men are just desperate to find dating advice and they can't find it anywhere besides Andrew Tate, because Andrew Tate is not offering like pearls of wisdom. He's just saying
the real reason Andrew Tate was popular is because young men are terrified of women for good reason. They're very scary, and they need to find a way to process that, because you can't just say it openly. The reason young women are scared of men, they can talk about openly because it's like really obvious, straightforward shit, like they could rape or kill you, right? Because men sometimes do that, which I think is bad in my moral opinion. You know, that's something you can, that's a very easy problem to talk about, you know what I mean? Because it's very empirical. It's very easy to get sympathy for, justified sympathy, mind. It's easy, it's like very conceptually understandable. Not to say there aren't people online who are like horrible about that stuff even, but it's easy to rally around. But why are women scary? Well, women are scary because they could laugh at you. And, you know, to a young guy with like a low self-esteem, that's terrifying, right? Could be your height, could be your dick. The way the world works these days, you've probably grown up on pornography, so you think an average penis is like 9 inches and yours is too small or whatever. And yeah, in your brain, this feels like the end of the world. I'm not making fun, you know? It's unfortunate. Young people should be, in my opinion, young people should be overconfident. All young people should be they should all be obnoxious and overconfident, stumbling into each other in high school or whatever. You know, whatever. You're literally stupid, right? Have fun with it. But in reality, obviously, they're all neurotic messes and everyone has short form content addiction. Andrew Tate helps young men feel like they're no longer terrified of women. The narrative there being like, women are subhuman, they are dogs compared to you. They are driven by biological impulses. You know, you have nothing to fear from them. And if they ever did anything that you didn't like, they're beneath you, so it doesn't matter. And I think that's bad, but that is a proposed solution to the underlying insecurity, the underlying emotional problem. I think, of course, the best way of dealing with that insecurity is just to come to terms with yourself and learn how to talk with women and stuff like that. But it's not about Andrew Tate giving good advice. It's just like, that is the emotional core that he is grifting off of. Like, that's what he's trying to appeal to sell you a narrative.
Get strong, get stronger. Do strong stuff.
Actually, I don't care how you get it, but how should a guy get a girl?
Oh, how should a guy get a girl in general?
You're not talking.
There's a really long answer to give there, but truthfully, it doesn't matter if it's getting a girl or it's making money or it's getting status. It doesn't matter what it is. As a man, we live in hyper-competitive environments. I don't think enough men understand how competitive the world is. If you want a girl, you're competing against other men. You're not the only man who had the idea of getting that girl. There's no girl you're going to see and go, oh, I'll get that girl, and didn't cross anyone else's mind. Everybody else wants her. You have to outcompete other men. You have to be as competitive as possible.
Because of this, I want to make the argument that the reason why Andrew Tate is, or really was popular, I don't know if he's as popular anymore, The reason he was popular isn't because he gave advice, but because of the far simpler reason they like him. They like the things he says. Andrew Tate entertains people. He gives them an ideological project that they enjoy and that they find entertaining.
Well, yeah, that's what he's offering in lieu of advice. I mean, advice can be bad advice, right? Like, the bad advice in this case is the ideological project. But yeah, I mean, it's a broader philosophy, to be sure. But I still think the core of it is the fact that it's targeting those negative emotions. I do not think young men who are not insecure would ever fall for Andrew Tate. Like, things like that, reactionary thinking, misogyny, fascism, whatever, they always appeal to emotionally weak people. People who are looking for a cause to give them legitimacy, people who feel like they're not enough on their own. You basically, self-actualized, confident people almost never fall for these for these pits, right? You're always taking advantage of somebody's weaknesses. So I think that like part of the goal here, considering the fact that a lot of young men are like pretty insecure, you just have to be able to speak to them in a way that shores them up a bit, right? Just let them know that there's more out there, right? It's not like the entire world, their whole life is going to be them fumbling with chicks, and the only people out there giving advice are on the right. There's a whole world out there of people who can be helpful or harmful, offer good or bad advice, and you have to make your own decisions about how you're going to implement it, but hopefully not the Andrew Tate version.
That this is the reason why young men are flocking to Andrew Tate. It's because they like him. And I feel like there's this constant refusal to reckon with this fact. There's this constant need to pretend that what's missing from the internet is dating advice, and that if we simply had enough of a scaffolding of dating advice, nobody would be interested in Andrew Tate. No, Andrew Tate is not offering dating advice. Andrew Tate is offering his lifestyle. He's offering spectacle. He's offering, in a certain sense, good videos, entertaining videos. So why would the solution to the problem be give really specific dating advice? That's not what Andrew Tate does. Do you see what I mean?
Wow. I'm sorry. I like Big Joel. I like his videos, but this
I guess maybe it would be more accurate to say the solution is to try to address or appeal to the same underlying emotional state that makes young men find Andrew Tate entertaining. Probably, I think. But I guess that's a little bit less punchy. Dating advice, I think, is only a smaller, it's a microcosm. It's like a smaller slice of this broader dynamic.
Of stuff does not help anyone. It's like your house is on fire and you're locked inside with a fire extinguisher and you're like, oh shit, what do I do? How do I use this thing? And Joel is like, I think you should first consider that the fire is just a natural exothermic reaction which will go out at some point. The fire will stop at some point. So I wouldn't really worry about this long term. I think you should look inside and figure out what feels like the best course of action in this situation.
Okay, that's just not at all what I'm saying. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the fire...
You don't think fire is an exothermic reaction that'll eventually go out? All right. Big Joel, little brain. Am I right, fellas?
Will just put itself out. You don't need to worry about the fire. You shouldn't even want advice. You shouldn't even care about trying to make your life better. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying really is that for the most part, and I'm sure that sometimes advice is good, but for the most part, you are in your house and it's burning down and you have a fire extinguisher and you probably have a pretty good idea of how it works. And the problem is that me on the internet, I can't come into your house and give you really specific instructions on how to use the fire extinguisher. You're the one who owns it. And then most of the advice that fire extinguisher instructions...
Unfortunately, I think they're both talking past each other to an extent, or maybe they're not. I don't really know. I just have my own opinions. I guess my thought here is that for a lot of people on the left, maybe Big Joel to an extent, I don't know how much, I think that a lot of them, for one, kind of underestimate or misunderstand why people like Andrew Tate have become popular. No longer, but you know what I mean. People like that. But also, more importantly, they have a difficult time understanding what kind of person, basically on a coin flip, could have either become an Andrew Tate fan or like a woke feminist. They have a difficult time understanding, like, really? You really think that all these young, insecure guys who ended up going to the far right, that they might have not been like that if they'd just been giving dating advice? And it does sound a little bit dumb, right? It's like, really? Like that, like these like 15-year-olds online, you're really saying that telling them to like move in for 90% of the kiss but wait for the last 10%, like that advice would have prevented them from having a Sonengrad flag hung up in their bedroom that their parents don't know what it is. They've lied to their parents and told them it's like a state flag or something. And it's kind of crazy to think of it that way, or I guess in that narrow of a context. But I don't know. People are driven by such gut level rationality when it comes to their sexual insecurity. It's always that, man. It always comes down to that. It doesn't feel like it now. I'm 31. I'm past the point where I feel like I'm being led around by my dick. But I swear to God, man, when I was like 16 or 17 or when I was in high school broadly, I guess, there were probably like a million times where I did like I did something that was like a social fumble because my ability to process what a good response to a question or behavior or whatever was miles away from my brain. You know what I mean? And it was all because in addition to the real world around me and in my head and all that stuff, there was another world which was like the pantomime simulacrum of the social sexual that I was also like running a reel of in my head, where like on one hand, I'm like, I am talking to somebody who I think is cool and I think she's cute and I'd like to get to know her better or whatever. And in my head, there's like unironically like borderline porn scenarios where like, oh, if you say this, she'll love it, dog. And this is informed off of nothing. This is informed off of literally nothing, right? Like I'm basically a kid. I have no idea. But I also have like no better judgment to go off of, basically, because who the f is going to give me advice, you know? Bro was hallucinating. That's the entire experience of like early hormonal social behavior. Goon schizophrenia. It sounds stupid, right? Or maybe I'm just explaining it poorly. I just think a lot of people forget how irrational and desperate a point in one's life it is. So I get the idea of a person being like really susceptible to good or bad advice at the right/wrong time. There are guys who are like 5'10", and a girl they liked said they're short because her brother is 6'1", and they carry the insecurity of being too short literally until their 30s. Like at some point they're married in their 30s, and this 5'10" individual to his wife is like, I've always been short. And the wife is like, what are you talking about? You're 5'10". And then he's like, I don't know. I guess I always thought that was short. And then you have to do some like time warping in the brain to figure out why you have that thought, and it's off nothing. And the girl didn't even mean it. She was just saying it, you know? I don't know. I'm just saying that's why I think it's important to give that advice. You need to be able to provide advice and a worldview in a way that is compelling and coherent and helpful and informative and friendly. And you have to do it so well, and you have to do it so consistently that you overwhelm not only the innate stupidity of people online looking for advice. And boy, are you guys sometimes you guys. Not only do you need to overwhelm that, you need to overwhelm the counter propaganda from the massive right-wing grifter industrial complex trying to pull them in the opposite direction, right? You need to like rest them in the right way. Like they're getting pulled back by so many things. They're getting pulled back by the entire right, by billionaire oligarchs that are funding these people, by AI chatbots, so Makima from Chainsaw Man can sex them, 12-year-olds out here asking her about her tits or whatever. They haven't left the room in 16 days or something. Their parents are out on vacation. They're dead. They've died in the room. They forgot to eat. You know, they're getting pulled back by so many people and so much power. So yeah, we have to put some effort in. We have to show them the light. That's my take. It's not just telling young people, hey, you know, it's okay to say you want to split the date 50-50, but a lot of girls will expect you to go all in, at least in the first date, and you know, that's up to you or whatever. It's just a broader life thing. Sorry, I know I'm rambling a lot, but yes.
Manual sellers give. You know it. Hey, just adding something in the edit. Jesus, it's so bright inside my home now.
I wish I could add in the edit.
Looking at what he's saying here, I just can't help but feeling, you know, a bit disappointed by it. You know, this title for this video, "The Left is Responsible for Young Men Going to Andrew Tate." It's so ambitious, but he's not really saying that I do that or like arguing that I do these harms or drag men to Andrew Tate. It doesn't feel like he's like looking at Andrew Tate or at the mechanics that would make people like him. It just doesn't really feel like he's paying attention to the material, really explaining how Andrew Tate ensnares people, what Andrew Tate's doing specifically, what sort of content the left should be making, right? And explaining like how the left doing that would work. I guess I just expected more explanation, more citation in this video, which is ostensibly...
Well, I didn't see the full video, so I can't really speak to it.
About how people end up falling for right-wing grifters. I don't know. So I want to skip forward a little bit now.
Look at Vaush crashing out about the abject desolation every young man lives in from age 15 to 28. It's not that serious, LOL. What is... Guys, do I not know what crashing out means? Have I forgotten the meaning of crashing out, or is it shifted? Is it like how some people are trying to say unk means uncool now, rather than uncle?
Because in the second half of this video, Adam Something starts giving dating advice. He starts just giving normal dating advice to his audience. So let's just watch, like, I don't know, 30 seconds of it. I don't know.
Okay, so what's needed on your end for girls to find you attractive, meaning 51 or above? Do you need to be a 2-meter tall, 90-degree square jaw mewing champion ripped
Yes.
gigachad with 2% body fat? No, absolutely not. Because attraction is subjective and unpredictable. Some girls will just find you attractive for whatever strange reason. Don't question it, don't investigate it, just be glad about it. As long as you
That is true. That is good advice. They are crazy.
look healthy, look clean, and dress okay. If you do it in person, you just walk up to them and strike up a conversation. Make sure to have something in common first. Attending the same event, doing the same thing, that sort of stuff. Simply make sure that in that situation, striking up a conversation is socially acceptable. So have a lighthearted conversation, and if you think it goes well, meaning she's engaged in it, not just yes or no answers, then you ask for her phone number.
Okay, I'm not going to watch all 9 minutes of this dating advice, but what I'm seeing here for now, in the first minute, maybe he gets to more sage places. I'm not saying he's giving stupid advice, but what I'm seeing now in the first 2 minutes of his dating advice offering is look clean, healthy, well-groomed. If girls seem to like you, you should, shoot your shot, talk to them, ask women for their phone number if you like them, go to events where people will be, just sort of, give it your all.
For online dating, you need photos and maybe a bio. Your photos will do 99% of the work, with your bio counting for about 1%. On your photos, you should be clean.
This is why I think that the life advice stuff is so much more important than the dating advice stuff, because dating gets so much easier once you have your life more or less in order, by which I mean, like, you should dress reasonably well. You should be in okay shape. I'm not saying you have to be like skinny or muscular or whatever. I'm saying like there is still a radiant glow of health that you get from fat people who still put the effort into exercising, Like if you're going on like 3 20-minute brisk walks a week and you have some dumbbells, you're doing some light exercise or whatever, you're being consistent with that, you're going out and blah, 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 blah. Like if you can do all that stuff, the dating stuff gets way easier. Like it's basically an open field for you because now you have enough, you have enough presence and like station in your life that you can present yourself positively. But trying to present yourself positively on Tinder or Bumble or whatever, or Hinge, when your life is a wreck, now all of a sudden it's really tough. It's like how if you learn the basics of interior design, it's easy to take nice photos of your home. But if you don't, and your house is a mess and you don't have any good furniture, it's really difficult to set something up that looks good because you don't know how to and you're cobbling together bad furniture. And even if you had the right furniture, the walls are dirty and the ground is that you don't have the rug and the lighting is all wrong. You're getting all the lighting from the overhead and it's 6,000 Kelvin. So yeah, I think it's more like live the best version of your life, and then when you're ready, let the world know that you're ready to like demolish some pussy. Basically, just like you have to become actualized. And then once you are, you can go on Bumble and be like, I will straight up crush it. I will crush it like a goddamn soda can that's just been drunk dry.
Smiling, well-dressed.
And that's great. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm not trying to say that that's stupid advice. I'm not trying to say that nobody would benefit from that advice. I do think that advice exists on the internet right now. I do think this is not different from WikiHow advice that you could just find on the internet in 10 seconds. I don't think that people desperately wanting for this advice are finding themselves in the clutches of Andrew Tate, because I think this advice is just sort of well known and that it's available to people. That's my opinion. And can I just say that I find
it's often more about the delivery than it is the actual content of the advice. I think it's how you present it, right?
the entire project of this video a little disingenuous. And let me explain what I mean. I mean, that sounds a little mean, but let me explain what I'm saying with that. Adam Something will come on the internet and say, what we really need is leftists to give dating advice to guys. That's what we need. And if we gave enough dating advice to guys, maybe then they wouldn't like Andrew Tate as much as they do. But if that's really true, if that's really the case, okay, practically, then why was the first 9 minutes of this video an argument against me? Why is it that the dating advice on its face was not entertaining or interesting enough for your male audience that we needed to first rebut some guy saying that dating advice wasn't helpful? What was the point of that, right? And I'll tell you what the point is. I'll tell you what I think the point is.
Well, obviously drama gets clicks, right? Also, Adam Something typically does, like, It's like infrastructure videos and light politics. I don't mean light politics as in the content's not political. I mean light as in like it's a light touch usually on the subject and not like a big grinding deep dive for a video essayist, you know. It'd be a little bit tough just to do a video on good dating advice. I've actually done the same thing where I frame a video about good advice as being like a response to the left. I'm just doing it for the views. There is an element of legitimate critique against the predominant behavior in the left, and I think it's valid, you know, but I want people to watch my content, you know. I stand by what I'm saying. I think it's important, but you know, obviously listen, okay, I've done this for long enough. I know how fickle the SEO bullshit is. I know sometimes the reason, look, if you ever see a title of mine and it's all caps, the blank situation has gone crazy, blank is crashing out. Listen, okay, I'm laughing to the bank. I apologize. If I could give you guys a factual title, like just a straightforward description, and I would get the same number of views, then that would be that. But obviously, that's not the world that we live in, so whatever, right? I want people to listen to what I have to say. It is tough to pitch people life advice, though, unless it's tough to get people to listen to life advice. Because everyone either doesn't want to hear it because they've already got it figured out, or they don't want to hear it because they don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, people with clean rooms don't care about how important it is to keep a clean room, lessons on such, but people with dirty rooms don't want to hear it, right? If you've got a shit-ass dirty room full of pee cups or whatever, you do not want the wealthy streamer man on the other end of the screen to be like, all right, everyone, that's enough politics. Now let me lecture you on why you're failing your life. You have to find ways to thread the needle and deliver that advice to people who need it, and in ways they receive it.
This dating advice is boring. It's boring to hear it, and nobody wants to read it or watch it. People are not that invested in it because they know it. They know it. They can look it up. They know it. What's interesting is hot takes.
Wait, hold on. This one's from YouTube channel, or from YouTube chat. Oh my God, he's still talking about this. Vaush has a lot of rhetorical skill. I wish his audience would allow him to use it on interesting topics. Buddy, I'm doing this to you myself. Also, what the fuck? I stream like 4 hours every day. I talk a lot. Come on. Let me choose. Sheesh. I appreciate you removing the agency from me. Like, you're like, his chat forced him into doing this, but I'm afraid that in this case, I actually just really like talking about life advice. I like it a lot. So I'm kind of enjoying the excuse, you know? I'm not even really engaging with the drama. I like both these guys.
What's interesting is disagreeing with people. What's interesting is saying that, you know, I give stinky takes. There are so many takes, like this Adam something video, like an incalculable number of takes about how what the left needs to provide is more and better dating advice. I've seen this take like 1,000 billion times, okay? And yet, for whatever reason, it always seems to just stop there. They make the take, they say that the left...
So just like everyone else with money, you take advantage of the situation to line your pockets instead of doing the right thing. Is taking advantage of the situation to line your pockets, in this case, continuing to watch the video because I want to talk about it? Because if that's the case, that's like the meanest way to say the true thing. Just like every other YouTuber, you'll talk about the things you're interested in. Why can't we all just get along?
Has this inadequacy, and then they don't like do the thing. But the problem with young men is really that pretty boring dating advice isn't accessible enough to them. Then why wouldn't providing it be on its face interesting enough?
Well, hold on. Because they need to like you, right? People are usually more willing to take advice from people they like. So if you're just like, this is why WikiHow doesn't really do the trick, you know? If a person is in a disheveled enough life state that they could benefit from advice from YouTubers online, they're probably not going to take that advice from just any old source, you know? They have to think you're reliable, or at least they have to find you funny, you know? They have to feel good taking your advice. Who would feel good taking advice from WikiHow? You know what I mean? I feel like it would feel so obvious that it's almost like denigrating yourself to take the advice. And it would make me want to feel contrarian, if anything. I'd be like, well, if the good advice is on WikiHow, I bet this is like the normie version of the advice, and there's some better version of the advice out there.
And it's not interesting enough. If you cut the first 9 minutes off of this video where you responded to me and just made a video called, here's some ideas I have for how to find a girlfriend, it would get like 10,000 views? Like, realistically, how many people would care? What I'm trying to get at here is that genuinely, I don't believe I am leading men to Andrew Tate. I don't think my opinions on advice are leading men to Andrew Tate. I don't think the fact that I don't offer tons of dating advice is leading men to Andrew Tate. Giving men normal advice on how to date women. It will not answer the problem that is Andrew Tate, because Andrew Tate is not appealing because young men think when they watch him, wow, this guy gives outrageous advice. If I do what this guy says, I can do it all. That's not...
Well, he quells their anxiety. But yes, the fact that they find him entertaining and likable is the what's the term, the molasses with the medicine, the honey with the medicine, you know what I mean. It's the sugar that goes with the medicine
thing that's happening. Anyway, that's my take. Agree or disagree, that's totally fine. Adam, genuinely a challenge to you. Start making a dating advice channel and see how it goes. You know, if there's such a market for this, if that's so appealing to people, then cash in. I mean, if this is something that doesn't already exist and that people would find interesting and that could scrape audience members from Andrew Tate, then you should do it.
I'm probably going to be talking even more about life advice in the future, not because I think I'm the best person to deliver it or whatever. Like I wouldn't give fitness advice because I thought I was the most physically fit person on YouTube. That would be ridiculous, you know. I think it's more because the deep state, you know, the deep state parentheses, Donald Trump, comma, Israel, comma, Sam Altman, whatever, end parentheses, they all want us to be pod people. You know, they all want us to turn into fat AI dependent blobs with no social prospects, who live moment to moment at the whim of our corporate overlords. And I think that one of the best ways to fight back against that, both in like a systemic sense and also personally, is to be self-actualized, to be healthy, physically fit, to have a good understanding of your life and what you can do with it, to be talented, to spend time with your hobbies, to make lots of friends, to go outside often, to get sun on your face, but wear sunscreen, you know, basically like live a powerful and authentic life, be a strong person so you're not easy to take advantage of. And I think that a person like that is, you know, better positioned, happier, and a kind of political radical in their own, you know. It's obvious that the powers that be want us to be weak and dependent on the systems they're building to trap us. So if you make yourself strong, you know, rice and beans, right? Rice and beans. Rice and beans. So I'm probably going to talk about that more, if anything. I think it's getting to be more important. Well, anyway.
You should make the dating advice channel. You should make your channel devoted to dating advice. And you should see how well your channel does when you do that. I genuinely feel that way. And to all of you, if you disagree with me, that's fine. You know, as long as we can hold each other, as long as we can hold...
Sometimes my videos on dating or life advice do really, really well. I remember the videos that I did on the man versus bear thing did really good, which I'm super happy about, because I thought those were great videos. I thought those were excellent videos, you know? I was really, really happy with those. Obviously, there was like a drama element because we're talking about online discourse, and also I'm like arguing with people on my Reddit, but they were all like a frame for advice and information that I thought was important, you know? I think framing not having a girlfriend as if it's being like trapped in a room that's on fire is part of the problem. I think that this comment's actually kind of part of the problem, you know? Obviously, not having a girlfriend is not like being trapped in a room that's on fire, but like to a lot of young people, everything that feels like it's going wrong in their life feels like being trapped in a room that's on fire. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is totally a perceptive thing. Like, we're not saying it's literally like you can be a guy in high school and never have a girlfriend until graduating, and literally your life will be fine, but it still f***s some people up, and it's totally like self-inflicted. It's mental, right? But you know, the perceptive issue is very important. It's like we all have to deal with people's perception that violent crime is through the roof right now, you know? It's annoying, right? Everyone, like every conservative acts as though we're living in an era of sky-high crime, and we're just not. And you can tell them that we're not. And there are grifters online, they deliberately lie. But what about like regular people, not even Republicans, like even some Democrats, who also think we're living through an era of record violent crime, like in spite of the evidence, and you can argue with them and say it's not true, and they just don't seem to really internalize it. Unfortunately, oftentimes with stuff like this, you have to engage with people's view of the world rather than the world as it is, which is infuriating, but it's just how it is, you know. It's just how it is. Do you think lack of affordability is a contributing factor to why young men feel insecure about dating? Honestly, no. I don't, because it seems like in many poorer countries, young men are way the confident, you know. In the favelas of Brazil, I guarantee you, poor young men are way the more confident on average than, like, I don't know, random random young men in America. I think I think it's the atomization, not the wealth. You know, people used to be a lot poorer and a lot more social. There are incels over in Brazil too. Yeah, but probably less. I'm just going to roll the dice on this one. I'm just going to guess that in Brazil, inceldom is probably less common than in America. I could be totally off on that, but you know, I feel like that's true. I hope they're able to like hug it out or something, you know? Making less than the girl you're dating is probably an issue for a lot of guys. Yeah, but we're talking about young guys here. Like with high schoolers, neither are probably making like much or any money, you know? I don't know. It's a broad issue. It's a broad issue. It's a big hoo-ha, you know? It's a big doodah. Thank you. Good night. But if you go into men in their 20s, it's 100% affordability making this worse. I'm biased here because I'm not straight. And when I do deign to have sex with women, they're not straight either. They're bi or gay, and I'm an exception. So when I date women, usually I like money has just never been an issue because they got pronouns, yeah, and like they would pay for me, right? I've never dealt with women pulling the gender card on me, basically. Actually, I've experienced the gender card more from gay men than I have women, personally. Like all the women I've ever dated or whatever, you know, it was like, well, we split paying for the meals or whatever. But I like a twink or whatever, and they're like acting like the woman, you know. It's crazy what they get away with. Woke is winning. Andrew Tate and Jake Paul both lost their fights this weekend. I thought it was Logan Paul. I guess it's Jake Paul. Polymarket glove on Jake Paul. Jesus Christ. Oh, no, sorry. That's the Polymarket shorts on the guy that Jake Paul got beat up by. Okay, my bad. They looked like shit. Yeah, I mean, they were getting, like, punched a lot. So I suppose that makes sense.